I refused to pay for my sister's $90,000 wedding. Days later, she came at me with 5 lawyers and a power of attorney. My name is Alyssa, and I just turned 32 last month. I built my career as a financial advisor, helping people secure their futures, yet somehow couldn't protect my own from family exploitation. My younger sister Brittany always lived beyond her means while I saved every penny. When she demanded I pay for her extravagant wedding, I refused. Her text inviting me to a birthday dinner seemed like an olive branch. Instead, I walked into a room with 5 lawyers and a document that would change everything. I grew up in a modest colonial house in suburban Phoenix with my parents, William and Patricia Collins. Dad worked as a senior accountant for a telecommunications company. Mom taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school. We were solidly middle class. Dad and Mom raised us with strong values about financial responsibility, always emphasizing the importance of living within our means. Credit cards are for emergencies, not lifestyle, Dad would repeat at least twice a week. This advice shaped my approach to money from an early age. Brittany came along when I was 6 years old. The age gap meant we never really competed for the same things, but it also created a dynamic where she was perpetually the baby of the family. From the beginning, there were different rules for Brittany. While I had strict curfews and chore responsibilities, Brittany somehow managed to charm her way out of consequences with her bright blue eyes and infectious laugh. "Alyssa, be patient with your sister," Mom would say. "She's still learning." This became the refrain of my childhood, even as we both grew older and Brittany showed early signs of entitlement. When I was 14 and saving my allowance for a new mountain bike, Brittany broke my ceramic piggy bank and took $60 to buy makeup and nail polish. Instead of punishment, my parents simply replaced my money and told me to keep it in a safer place next time. These patterns continued through our teen years. I babysat neighborhood kids and worked summers at the local Target, carefully saving for college. Meanwhile, Brittany received triple allowances for barely completed chores and new designer backpacks for getting through finals regardless of her grades. When I pointed out this disparity, my parents would say, "Your sister is different than you. She needs more encouragement." But what happened next would test every boundary I'd ever tried to set with my family dynamics that seemed impossible to escape. High school revealed our diverging personalities even more clearly. I joined the forensics team, became class treasurer, and graduated as valedictorian with a full scholarship to Arizona State University. Brittany barely maintained a C+ average, skipped classes regularly, and spent most weekends at house parties. Her charm and social skills meant teachers gave her second chances I never received. College marked my first taste of true independence. I juggled classes with 2 part-time jobs, one at the campus financial aid office during weekdays and weekend shifts as a barista at a local coffee shop. Every summer, I interned at investment firms, building my resume while earning money. My rare visits home revealed Brittany following a very different path. While I studied finance and economics, Brittany dropped out of Phoenix Community College after 1 semester, claiming it wasn't the right environment for her creative personality. She cycled through jobs at Applebee's, Best Buy, and as a rideshare driver, never staying anywhere longer than a few months. Each position ended with some dramatic story about unreasonable bosses or toxic workplaces. Never any acknowledgement of her chronic tardiness or minimum effort. By my senior year of college, our parents faced their own financial challenges. Dad was forced into early retirement when his telecommunications company downsized, and Mom reduced her teaching hours due to developing chronic migraines. Their retirement savings took a hit during the market downturn, and medical bills started accumulating. As the responsible one, I naturally stepped in to help organize their finances, set up payment plans for medical expenses, and ensure they stayed afloat. Brittany, then 26, still lived at home rent-free. She contributed nothing to household expenses while working sporadically as a server at various restaurants around Phoenix, spending lavishly on designer purses and weekend trips to Las Vegas with friends. Each time I visited, I noticed new expensive items in her room while our parents worried about affording their medications. After graduating with honors, I secured a position at Premier Wealth Management in Scottsdale. My starting salary was modest, but I budgeted carefully, shared a 2-bedroom apartment with my college roommate, and continued building my career. Every month, I sent money home to help my parents, setting up automatic transfers so they could count on that support. During this period, Brittany experienced her first major financial crisis that would reveal the depths of her irresponsibility. Brittany had accumulated over $22,000 in credit card debt across 9 different cards. She called me crying at midnight, saying she was receiving collection calls and feared her wages would be garnished. Against my better judgment, I dipped into my emergency savings to help her clear the most pressing debts after making her promise to cut up her cards and learn financial responsibility. 6 months later, she announced her plan to open a boutique clothing store with a friend, needing just a small investment of $18,000. When I declined, she went to our parents, who took out a home equity loan to fund her venture. The store closed within 8 months, leaving our parents with additional debt, and Brittany with another story about how external factors caused her failure. This pattern repeated with various business ideas over the years: a food truck selling gourmet burgers, an online store specializing in vintage jewelry, and most recently, a subscription box service for organic skincare products. Each venture began with enthusiasm and ended with excuses, leaving financial wreckage for others to clean up. Meanwhile, my career progressed steadily. By 32, I had been promoted 3 times, built a solid client base, received my certified financial planner designation, and finally purchased my first home, a modest 4-bedroom house in North Scottsdale. I lived comfortably but still within my means, maintaining an emergency fund and retirement accounts while continuing to help my parents. 4 years ago, I met Connor at a charity fundraiser for childhood literacy programs. He worked as a cybersecurity engineer at a startup specializing in healthcare technology solutions. Our relationship developed naturally and healthily. Connor understood my financial values and shared similar ones. He had grown up in a family that struggled after his mother lost her teaching job during budget cuts, so he appreciated financial stability without materialism. Having Connor in my life provided emotional support I never realized I needed, especially when dealing with my family dynamics. With his encouragement, I began setting firmer boundaries with Brittany. But little did I know that my boundary setting was about to be tested in ways I never imagined when Brittany met Skylar and decided it was time to get married. The stage was being set for the most elaborate manipulation my own sister had ever attempted against me. The first time I heard about Skylar was through a Facebook notification. Brittany had tagged me in a post caption that read "She said yes," featuring a close-up of a woman's hand sporting a diamond ring that looked suspiciously large for someone working part-time at a sports bar. I immediately called my parents. "Did you know Brittany was even dating someone seriously?" I asked Mom. "Well, she mentioned a new girlfriend a few months ago," she replied hesitantly. "They met at that rooftop bar downtown where she was serving. She's some kind of social media influencer, I think." Later that evening, Brittany called, unusually enthusiastic. "Alyssa, did you see my post? I'm engaged. Skylar is incredible. You have to meet her. We're thinking about a July wedding, which gives us only 5 months to plan everything." 5 months? How long have you been dating? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "We've been together for about 6 months, but when you know, she replied defensively. "We're soulmates. She completely understands me." Red flags immediately waved in my mind, but I congratulated her and agreed to attend the engagement party scheduled for the following weekend at Azure Sky, an upscale rooftop lounge in downtown Phoenix. When I mentioned the venue to Connor, his eyebrows raised. "That place charges $3,000 minimum just to reserve space for private events," he said. "Is Brittany doing well financially suddenly?" The engagement party confirmed my concerns. Everything screamed extravagance: top-shelf open bar, gourmet hors d'oeuvres, professional photographer, and custom photo backdrop with Brittany and Skylar forever in rose gold script. About 70 guests mingled, many of whom seemed to be Skylar's friends based on their coordinated outfits and constant selfie-taking. Skylar herself was striking, tall, athletic build, perfectly styled in a designer white blazer that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Her Instagram profile, which she immediately instructed me to follow, described her as a luxury lifestyle influencer with just under 200,000 followers. Her feed displayed a carefully curated life of exotic vacations, champagne brunches, and product placements for high-end fashion brands. The trap was already being constructed, piece by careful piece, and I was the intended target. "We're so thrilled you could make it," Skylar air-kissed near both my cheeks. "Brittany talks about her big sister, the financial genius, all the time. We definitely need to schedule lunch to discuss some investment opportunities for our future." Throughout the evening, I observed their interactions. Brittany seemed almost performative around her, ordering multiple bottles of premium champagne, loudly discussing vacation properties they were considering, and deferring to her every preference. She had adopted an entirely new vocabulary, referring to their personal brand and aesthetic vision for the wedding. As I was preparing to leave, Brittany pulled me aside. "What do you think? Amazing party, right? Skylar has incredible taste." "It's lovely," I said. "It must have been quite expensive." "Worth every penny to celebrate our love," she grinned. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about the wedding plans. With your financial background, I figured you could help us create a realistic budget." I felt momentary relief. Perhaps Brittany was finally embracing financial responsibility. But her next words would shatter that hope and set in motion the most elaborate trap my own sister had ever set for me. "Of course, we can set up a time to go through the numbers and see what makes sense based on your savings and income," I replied, feeling cautiously optimistic. Her smile faltered slightly. "Well, we already have most of it planned. Skylar found this amazing resort in Cabo San Lucas. They have a wedding package that includes the ceremony on a private beach, reception for 200 guests, 7-course dinner, premium open bar, and a weekend of activities for the wedding party." "That sounds extensive," I replied carefully. "What's the total cost?" "Around $90,000, she said quickly, "but it includes almost everything. We just need to handle flights, attire, photographer, and a few extras. Skylar has connections for discounts on some elements through her influencer partnerships." I nearly choked. "Brittany, that's an enormous amount of money. Do you have savings for this?" "Well, not exactly," she admitted, "but I thought with your recent promotion and since you never spend money on yourself anyway." And there it was, the real reason for our private conversation. Not to seek budgeting advice, but to set the groundwork for asking me to fund her extravagant wedding. The web was closing around me, and I didn't even realize how carefully it had been spun. Over the next several weeks, the hints evolved into direct demands. First came group texts with photos of the resort, followed by phone calls about how our parents deserved to see their daughter get married in style. Then Skylar began sending me wedding inspiration boards and vendor quotes directly, as if my financial participation was already confirmed. Things came to a head during a family dinner at our parents' house. Mom had prepared Brittany's favorite meal, chicken enchiladas and tres leches cake, and the conversation remained superficial until dessert arrived. Then Brittany cleared her throat dramatically. "So Alyssa, we need to finalize the wedding finances this week. The resort requires a 50% deposit to secure our date." "Brittany, I haven't agreed to pay for your wedding," I said firmly. "But you're the only one who can afford it," she countered. "Mom and Dad would help if they could, but with their medical bills, and you know my credit isn't great right now. This is what family does, they support each other during important life events." "I'm happy to help within reason," I offered. "I could contribute $8,000 toward a more modest wedding, or maybe consider a local venue that would cost significantly less." Skylar, who had been quietly scrolling through her phone, suddenly looked up. $8,000 wouldn't even cover the flowers," she said dismissively. "And we can't do a local wedding. None of the venues here match our vision or aesthetic. Plus, I've already told my followers about the Cabo plans." "My sister is being selfish," Brittany said, her voice hardening. "She sits in her fancy house with her perfect boyfriend while judging my choices." I felt ambushed and betrayed. What came next would change our family forever. I drove home in tears that night and called Connor immediately. He came over with Ben and Jerry's ice cream and a level head. But the real shock was still coming, a birthday dinner invitation that would reveal the depths of my sister's deception. For nearly 3 weeks, I heard nothing from Brittany or my parents. Then, out of nowhere, a text from Brittany appeared on my phone. The message was surprisingly conciliatory. "Hey sis, I've been thinking about our fight. I may have overreacted. Can we talk? No wedding talk, I promise." I showed the text to Connor, who looked skeptical. That doesn't sound like Brittany at all. She never admits being wrong. Still, I wanted to believe my sister was capable of growth. His response came quickly, suggesting we meet for dinner rather than just a phone call. "Actually, your birthday is next week. Let me take you to Francesca's to celebrate and make amends. Remember how we used to go there for special occasions when we were kids? Thursday at 7. Francesca's was indeed where our family celebrated milestones, an upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Phoenix where our parents took us for graduations and achievements. What struck me as odd was my parents' reaction when I mentioned the birthday dinner during our weekly phone call. Dad went silent, and Mom suddenly became very interested in discussing an unrelated book club meeting. 3 days before the scheduled dinner, I received an unexpected call from the restaurant. "Miss Collins, this is Giuseppe from Francesca's. I'm calling to confirm your business meeting setup for Thursday evening in our Venetian room." "Business meeting?" I echoed. I thought this was a birthday dinner. The reservation made by Miss Collins specifically requested our business meeting configuration with a presentation screen and conference-style seating, not our standard dining arrangement. She paid the deposit last week. After ending the call, I sat staring at my phone. I called Lucas, a law school friend who had helped me with legal questions in the past. "It sounds like your sister might be planning some kind of formal proposal or presentation," Lucas said. "I'd be very cautious. Do you want me to look into whether she's filed any legal documents recently?" The day of the dinner, I arrived at Francesca's at 6:55, taking a deep breath before entering. The hostess guided me through a corridor toward the private rooms. We stopped at a heavy wooden door with Venetian room engraved on a brass plate. The scene that greeted me confirmed my worst suspicions. There were no birthday decorations, no festive table setting, no sign of celebration whatsoever. Instead, the room was arranged like a boardroom. At the far end sat Brittany and Skylar, both dressed formally. My parents occupied chairs to their right, looking uncomfortable and avoiding eye contact. 5 unfamiliar people in expensive suits sat opposite my parents, leather portfolios placed precisely before them. "Alyssa, right on time as always," Brittany stood, her smile tight and practiced. "Please take a seat." She gestured to the lone chair at the opposite end of the table, positioned so I would face everyone else like a defendant before a tribunal. As I slowly approached the table, Brittany performed introductions with uncharacteristic formality. "I'd like you to meet Richard Thompson, my attorney, and his associates from Thompson, Hayes and Associates." I carefully pulled out my phone, activated the recording app, and took the offered seat. "What is this about, Brittany? This clearly isn't a birthday dinner." Richard Thompson cleared his throat. "Miss Collins, your sister has consulted our firm regarding a family financial matter. We're here to facilitate a discussion and potential agreement." With that cue, one of the female attorneys slid a thick document across the table toward me. The header read "Power of Attorney Agreement," in bold type. "What is this?" I asked, though I already knew. Brittany leaned forward, her expression a practiced mix of concern and determination. "Alyssa, you've always been the financially responsible one in our family. As family, we have certain obligations to each other." The most elaborate financial trap my own sister had ever set for me was finally sprung, but she had no idea that I was ready for her. The battle for my financial freedom was about to begin, and this time, I wasn't backing down.